every hour of every day she spent at the large financial institution where she works as an auditor.
You have to have these two separate lives.
Her life at home, where she was her whole self, and her life at work, where as the only Black person in her department, the mask rendered her a shadow of herself.
There's already an idea of who you are. You have to always be conscious of how you present to other people.
Hands up!
Am I being too loud? Am I fitting into very specific stereotypes? If I come in and say, you know, I'm having a hard day. I don't even know if I want to be here right now because another Black person just got murdered. I don't think people really have the capacity to take on someone else's energy.
Would you call it isolating?
Most definitely.
It's an isolation that is painfully familiar to people of color in the workplace, from encountering racist jabs known as microaggressions to being overlooked for promotions. But some of that changed when the pandemic hit. A survey by the Slack think tank Future Forum found that Black employees experienced less stress and their sense of belonging skyrocketed 50% once they started working from home.
Slack survey finds 97% of Black knowledge workers want the future of the office to be remote or hybrid. Not surprising. I think people having gone through this past year and experiencing the constant cuts from microaggressions and the fatigue of living through the pandemic are just tired. And to go back to what they knew after having experienced some level of relief, don't want to go back to that.
For Tisha, working from home wasn't just an escape. It was a chance to be herself.
It was great to be in this sea of people.
To march with her family after George Floyd was killed.
Wanting to see change.
To unmask herself at work.
I volunteered and said, at where I work, I would like to do this. I wrote an article. The title of the article is Why is Self-Reflection Not Enough? Self-reflection is not enough if you want to be an ally.
What was it like bringing that part of yourself to your professional environment when that's normally not something that you do?
I think it was that gate that needed to be opened. I do a lot of things outside of work, but then doing it at work really did help me bring more of myself forward because I don't want to wear a mask. I do want to be my full authentic self. I want to be able to show up in any space with any person and be Tisha. 100%, all the way through.
That Slack study concluded, in order to give Black employees a greater sense of belonging, employers should embrace flexible work as part of their central principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We're hearing from a former Tesla employee who sued and won a discrimination lawsuit against the automaker. ABC News reporter Rebecca Jarvis has more on the racial abuse he endured.
We just want to be treated and seen as equal human beings.
This morning, a former Tesla contract worker speaking out after a San Francisco federal court decided the electric car maker must pay him $137 million over claims he suffered racist abuse at the company. Owen Diaz, who was hired through a staffing agency in 2015 as an elevator operator at Tesla's factory in Fremont, told the court he faced a hostile work environment where employees drew swastikas and racist graffiti on bathroom stalls, where coworkers told him to go back to Africa, and ethnic slurs were heard routinely. Diaz says nothing was done to stop it, quitting after roughly 1 year on the job and ultimately suing.
They decided not to follow through. They decided to kill investigations. You know, you can't keep treating workers like this.
Now, Tesla, whose founder and CEO is Elon Musk, ordered to pay Diaz $130 million in punitive damages and $7 million in emotional distress, an unprecedented amount for racial discrimination cases.
A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. They have to choose to take the abuse that these billion-dollar companies are putting out or feed their families.
In an internal email to employees Monday following the verdict, posted on the company's website. Tesla's VP of People writing, although the facts they have of the case don't justify the verdict reached by the jury in San Francisco, we do recognize that in 2015 and 2016, we were not perfect. We're still not perfect, but we have come a long way from 5 years ago.
Hopefully it will make them change and make other companies change and realize racist conduct has no place in the workplace.
Particularly in job situations. They set black people up. One thing, many white supremacists have concluded that in most cases, or in many cases, black people, non-white people, act according to their emotions. So they know what buttons to push. They just about know when they're going to fire you and how they're going to go about doing it, because they know when they're going to make you angry. They know how to make you angry. They know how to make you laugh. They know how to get you to relax. They know how to get you uptight. So they say, okay, well, we're going to get rid of that fella today. So we'll have him come in, and we'll start telling him this and telling him that and whatnot. We got our own strategies and whatnot. And we have been studying him, and we know that he has a temper. So at this point, this one thing, because white supremacists always study their victims, and they know more about their victims than the victims know about themselves, all right? The white supremacists know more about me than I will ever know about myself, all right? They make it their business to do that. So they can kind of predict behavior. And in job situations, when they get ready to get rid of a non-white person, they'll say, hey, what we'll do, we'll make him mad, because we know what will make him mad. So, about 9 o'clock today, when he does this and whatnot, you go over and say to him this, and this. Now, that'll get him angry, and he's going to immediately blow up. He's going to start calling names and all like that. And today, by 5 o'clock, he'll be fired. So we'll just set him up for that. He'll walk right into the trap. He won't be expecting it. And this happens all the time.
Yes.
See what I mean? So non-white people should be aware of this. When they get ready to get rid of you, everything is just fine, but now he's got a cousin that needs your job, and he says, hey, well, Henry, that black guy down there, he's got that position, and he's doing an excellent job and all like that. Say, well, but my cousin needs that job. So how are we going to get rid of Henry and do it all nice and neat? Say, well, we'll make him angry. So you know how these people are. They always got a chip on their shoulder and whatnot. They always want somebody to respect them.
Mm-hmm.
They're real big on respect. So you say something that sounds like you're disrespecting them, he's going to go off. It's not going to be disrespect, because these black people don't even know what respect is. See, they just know what we have told them.
So they set them up, huh?
They don't have a definition for respect.
Mm-hmm.
They think they do, okay? So we'll have them play in our hands, just like they do with everything that we relate to them. That's why we're dominant. That's why we're white supremacists. And that's why they're always victims, because they do not think ahead. They only think about how they feel at the moment. And we'll always use that against them, because they're very emotional people. They fly off the handle real quick. See what I mean? But you got to know what buttons to push. And we know what buttons to push, because we understand them better than they understand themselves.
You're being set up. Yeah.
When you run the kindergarten, you know your children, all right? And that's what the white supremacists look at the whole world of non-white people. They say, we know how to move these people around. They don't even know they're being moved around. We know how to, set them up for, make them laugh like you wouldn't believe. And we know how to make them mad. Just have them, storming around the place, knocking things over. We know how to do that. See, so we'll just orchestrate it. Anytime we want them to do anything, we know how to handle them. They don't know anything about how to handle us, even though they think they do. That's why they're in the position that they're in, and we're in the position that we're in. We're white supremacists, and they are victims of white supremacy, just like all their ancestors, because they didn't know anything either.
In a socio-material system dominated by racist white supremacists, all jobs that are established and or maintained by white people are dominated either directly or indirectly by those white people who practice racism and white supremacy. No person can be hired, fired, promoted, and or get in trouble on a job unless it is the will of the white supremacists. In addition, there is no such thing as a non-white person being a supervisor on a job in any socio-material system that is dominated by white supremacy. Only white people are supervisors. Non-white people, however, may have a supervisory title, but in truth, only serve as messengers or carriers. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Happy Monday, welcome back to On the Shoulders of Giants. I am Joseph Ward, and continuing my reading and review of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter-racist code, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism and white supremacy by Neely Fuller Jr. And this video, we're covering area 4, the area of labor. And you saw the clips at the beginning talking about basically racism in the workplace, racism in the area of labor. Well, why wouldn't racism be in the area of labor? So he talks about how white supremacy dominates every aspect of our lives. And because white supremacy dominates every aspect of our lives, we don't really have the control or the power that we believe we have, according to Neely Fuller Jr. The power or the control that we assume or we perceive that we have is all given to us by the white supremacy system. And I'll use my job as an example. So my job is a organization that was created by Black people, and from my understanding has always been pretty much majority ran by Black people. But the white people give us the money. So the white people make the decisions on what we do and how we do what we do at the end of the day. We have free range within all of that, but we have to abide by their rules if we're going to use their money, because we are a federally funded organization. We have a board of directors. From my understanding, I think 90% of the board is Black. The CEO is Black. Basically, everybody is pretty much Black in leadership positions at my organization. But we're federally funded. So the feds tell us what to do at the end of the day. So that's where he's getting at by saying we only have supervisory roles. We're not actual supervisors, because we're only in the supervisory roles. We get to do what we do, but we ultimately have to follow the guidelines that are given to us by the people who have the resources, have the power, who have the control. And because we went to them for their resources, we have to abide by their rules. So supervisory titles versus being the supervisors. Now, the people who are the feds are the supervisors. We have the supervisory titles. So let's get further into this book. So he goes on to say, all white victims are equal servants to the races. All are weak, all are fearful. No non-white person can justly blame the other. No victim is justly qualified to name, call, and or denounce any other non-white person because of his or her submission to or cooperation with what racist man, racist woman. Each non-white person does his or her part indirect or his or her does her part indirect or indirect to support the system of white supremacy. So we can think what we want. We can feel what we want. We can believe what we want. We can hope what we want. We can wish what we want. All of those things. But until we are actually literally in control, until we are literally in power, it's all figurative. It's all ideal. It feels good to say it because We want something to help us escape the reality of our known oppression. We really know, at the end of the day, we really know who's in control. But we can change that, though. That's the purpose of these videos that we're doing on this channel, is to help spark the change. We can change that. We can change our position. We can change our lot in life. That's the purpose of the compensatory code. That's the purpose of the ISIS papers. That's the purpose of all the books that we're going to read in the future. All the content coming from this channel is designed to get us to not only just to believe and to understand and to know and to learn how to, but to actually take the steps to making sure that we can change our situation. So he goes on to say, as long as the system of white supremacy exists, do not expect any job situation to be as it should be, conducted with the justice and correctness. So he gives a long list of suggestions. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I'm going to go over some of them. So says he says the first suggestion is observe and study all things and all people without being troublesome. Learn who is doing what, how, and why. Study the ways that different jobs are done. Study the ways that one job is connected to the other. Make yourself as valuable as possible for yourself first, for your people first, for your overall objective, and for your job. Ask questions. Neely Fuller is big on asking questions, and I am, because I've, over time, especially this year, come to understand the power of asking questions and asking direct and right and concise questions. Ask questions. When you do not know what to do or know the best and correct way to do what you have been told to do, do not hesitate to ask to be taught. Ask questions. And later on in the reading, you're going to see why. He wasn't this particular clip from Neely Fuller. It was another clip that I was listening to. But later on in the reading, you're going to see why it's important to ask questions. No, I'm sorry. That was a total different video. So I just go ahead and say it. Because I watched a lot of Neely Fuller this past week. So one of the clips that I was watching, he was talking about the power of asking questions, because when you ask questions, you kind of basically put people on their heels. It puts you in a position of control, and you can kind of direct things when you can ask clear and concise and direct questions. So get in the habit of having your questions together and asking your questions, especially when the conversation, especially in conversation with white supremacists. So you can have your square together. You can be on your square. You can be in control, and you can direct the conversation. Be willing to learn what you need to know from anyone who knows and who is willing to teach you, including those white supremacists who are hostile and insulting in manner. Avoid all unnecessary and all non-constructive conversation. Say only what is necessary to be of constructive help to self or others. Minimize conflict by minimizing contact. Avoid unnecessary and non-constructive interaction with anyone. And we're talking about not just in life, but in the realm of work. What are we talking about, and why are we talking about it? If it's not constructive, why are we talking about it? Constructive can be fun, but it still has to be constructive. If we're doing things that are not constructive to us, it won't help us. Always use each and every law, written law, common law, supreme law, etc., in such a manner as to best promote the production of justice. Always thank people for whatever they say or do that helps to produce justice and the correctness. Always be courteous. Always call people by their name or title that they ask or accept you to call them. Always say only that which will be of most constructive value. Avoid trivial or argumentative conversations. Practice not saying anything when a person makes threats or hostile statements. Avoid making statements. Focus only on answering questions briefly and with maximum courtesy. See, one of the things that he's also getting at in this section, this labor section, and he spoke about it in the clip, and that's why I like that clip, and I use that particular clip to go with the first two news clips, is he's talking about the provoking of the black people by the white people. They understand us. They know how to push our buttons, so they know how to provoke us. They know how to get the emotions out of us. And if they want you fired, they know the best way to get you fired is to get you all up in arms and emotional. Be racist. Do racist stuff. You see the guy at Tesla, do racist stuff. You get him up out of there. Neely Fuller is saying we have to find a better way to handle the situation. Don't react. Be prepared. If we're prepared for any and everything that the white supremacists would throw at us, especially on the job, then we will be prepared. We won't have to react because we will already know. See, we would start, if we start playing chess and stop playing Uno with our cards turned backwards, we can get some type of progress, right? So they're studying us. They have studied us and they're going to keep on studying us. So they know exactly what they need to do to rile us up. So we need to study them so we can best counter all of their moves. The more counter moves that we have for them, the better it will be for us. The more progress we can make, real progress, true progress, progress towards justice, right? Avoid saying or doing anything that will contribute to a person being less able to support himself or herself through constructive work. Don't be a hater out here in these streets. Support, support, support constructive black people. Support the constructive black people. You see black people out here doing what they do, making change, making things better for us, putting their best foot forward. Support all black folk that are being constructive. Avoid talking directly about race and or sex unless others mention such matters directly to you. Choose to focus on talking about the production of justice as the reason for anything and everything that you say and do. Use courtesy in reminding everyone that, to the best of your knowledge and understanding, every person in the known universe has the duty of doing his or her part, his or her to best speak and act to produce justice. If they not trying to produce no justice up in here, they ain't talking about nothing with us. We're not on the same page and we can't rock together. We can't roll together. Because that's all we're about over here is the production of justice and the ending of the system of white supremacy. That's what we're here for, to break it down. And so he gives these suggestions. You probably hear my stomach. Excuse me, I'm hungry. So if you hear my stomach, I'm hungry. Try to get things done by 1, concentrating on what you know best. 2, choosing a situation that needs improvement. 3, getting all the facts. 4, interpreting the facts properly, analyzing the facts. 5, thinking of possible improvements. 6, choosing the better way. And 7, convincing others that it is an improvement, or being able to show others and prove to others that it is an improvement. These are suggestions that we can use to get things done. Once again, concentrating on what you know best. And that's important. Oh man, that's so important. I keep saying that all the time. That's so important. Whatever you know best, man, maximize that to help yourself and your people get out of this situation. 2, choosing a situation that needs improvement. There's plenty of situations. Choose one that best fits you, right? 3, getting all the facts. That's one thing we don't do that we got to spend more time to. 4, interpreting the facts properly, analyzing the facts, breaking down the facts. Making sure the facts are facts. 5, thinking of possible improvements. 6, choosing the better way, the better course of action, the more proper, the more sensible, the more logical course of action, choosing that. And 7, convincing others that it is an improvement, being able to show others this has been measured, this has been proven to work. That's why we're using this. So this is for males. This is for black males or non-white males, but black males. When in situations on the job where you often interact with a female, inform her of the following. If at any time I say anything to you or do anything in your presence or say anything about you that you find offensive or unpleasant, Please tell me. And this is one of these suggestions that Neely Fuller is giving men, black men. And remember, this book was originally written in 1957, and it has this type of information. Foresight. When you have properly analyzed the information, you can see what's coming. I mean, that's in any realm. Like, an example. I'm a big football fan. I like football. Well, I don't like the word fan, but I like to watch football. So time to time on YouTube, I will watch these professional athletes break down how they are so great at what they're doing. And one of the main things, especially all the great football players, all of my favorite football players that I like, one of the consistent things that they all talk about is studying their opponents, studying. Hey, it's 2023. This person has been playing since 2013. I've studied almost every game and everything they've done for the past 10 years. So 7 years ago, this person did this. I see this now. It's 7 years later. I've studied 10 years back, but I know, hey, I've seen this person do this and be successful at this 7 years ago. Studying. You have to study. You have to study. You got to. You got to. If we're not studying our opponent, we'll never win. We're always going to be out here guessing. And when you're out here guessing, you're going to lose. But 1957, he originally wrote this book, and he's telling black males to be thoughtful about how we interact with women. One, because of the historical interactions between black men and white women. And we know how that turns out usually bad for black men. So let's move on though. So he goes on to say, be willing to do any kind of work that is constructive if such work helps you to learn how to do things that can be used to produce justice and correctness. Learn how to make the constructive work that you do fun and make all fun into work that is constructive. Be willing to teach others who are in need everything that you know about any constructive work that you know how to do. Think of ways to make a non-constructive work situation into a constructive work situation. Start with small changes that will result in the completion of a larger plan. Study ways to work smart rather than work hard. I'm always down with that. And that's right up my alley. That is right up my alley. How can we improve this to make this constructive for better overall outcome so we can stop putting Band-Aids on shotgun wounds? That's the last thing we need to continue to be doing, is putting Band-Aids on shotgun wounds. So, hey, be willing to do any kind of work that is constructive. If it's going to help us, do it. Do it if it's helpful at the end of the day. In job or employment situations, do your best to make use of the following general suggestions. And these are 12 suggestions that Neely Fuller has. Number one, avoid being late. Black folk, yeah. Avoid being late. Always be where you agreed to be at the exact time that you agreed to be there, or at the time that is constructively earlier than the time you agreed to be there. If you told somebody you're going to do something, do it. Be there on time. Stop showing up on Negro time or colored people time. Stop doing that. Stop trying to make excuses for it. Well, y'all know we on the white man's time system. Negro, you set the time to meet. You agreed to time to be there, Negro. Ain't nobody. Stop it. Stop making excuses. We on the white man's time. You on some nigger stuff being late. 2, to the very best of your ability, always do the work that you agree to do. Point blank, period. Simple, straightforward. If you said you're going to do it, be a man or a woman of your word. Avoid all unnecessary conversations. Avoid being argumentative. Practice saying only those things that are of constructive value to yourself or to others. Always be willing to offer constructive help. Always make sure that you have the correct intentions in everything that you say and do. Always make sure that you do your best to say and do things that will be best to help to produce justice while in the presence of producing the other products of constructive labor. When told to do too much in a job situation, ask for some help. If told that you will not be given any help, try to do the most important of the part of the job first, but do so at a reasonable pace and try to do so safely and efficiently. Like, get as much as done as you can. If somebody give you some ridiculous request, do what you can, but don't kill yourself. You'll be crazy to kill yourself. Do your job, but don't kill yourself. If you can't get it all done, you can't get it all done. They shouldn't have gave you all of that. They the one gave you all that. If the burden of work that you are doing is being slowly, swiftly, and or deceitfully increased without you receiving more help or without you receiving the correct compensation, ask for more help or ask for more compensation. And if you don't get it, go look for it elsewhere. I added that. So, study in order to learn. If some of the work that you are doing is slowly, swiftly, or deceptively being directed to others in a manner that gives the appearance that you are no longer useful, and ask why. Oh, that is so important right now. That is so important right now, especially with the rise of this AI and a lot of people that are going to be deemed or rendered useless as far as the skill sets. You better start asking questions and you better start getting skills. The labor sector is about to change. And remember, if white people get a cold, we're going to get the bubonic plague. So we better, especially in, oh man, this labor, 2050 is coming, black people. 2050 is coming. And the root of all of that is white supremacy racism. If you are accused of doing something that you should not have done, or if you are accused of doing something that you should have done, ask for help immediately. Ask for help in doing things that need doing in regards to the best way of correcting what needs correcting. Ask for this help from someone who has the ability to do what should be done. Ask for help in the production of justice. Avoid attending meetings to talk about labor problems when there are few, if any, people present at the meeting who agree with you, who agree with what you say, who agree with what you say about the problems. Do not expect others to speak for you. Always be prepared to speak for yourself. Be prepared for some people to change what they say from supporting what you say to not supporting what you say. Expect some not to speak out of fear, greed, or misunderstanding. Basically, at the end of the day, you're going to see who's real and who's with you and who's not by who stands and who speaks with you and who stay on their word, who's consistent with what they be saying. A lot of people are hardcore and down for the cause behind the scenes, but when it come down to the come down, only the strong, and the strong usually are few. Put all of your questions about problems in writing. Black people, put all of your questions about problems in writing and ask politely that the answer to those questions be in writing and signed by persons providing the answers. If you got a problem, put that in writing. Put it in writing. My mom's taught me that a long time ago. You got issues, put it in writing, because once they put it in writing and it's signed, sealed, delivered, you can't go back on this. And if you try, I got it in writing and we got a bigger issue now. Don't just go to people emotional. Don't try to handle problems off of emotions. Handle problems off of logic and procedure and take the proper steps. If you don't do that, you are not helping yourself. You got to there, believe it or not, there are rules to fighting racism. Believe it or not. But because we don't know the rules, we can't properly fight it. Be courteous at all times. Do not shout. Do not engage in name calling. Be calm. Be systematic in presenting what you say. Read from what you have written. Choose your questions carefully. If you do not know the answer to a question, say that you do not know. Also say that you will try to produce the answer. Do not knowingly say anything that is false. Don't let nobody get you off your square. Be prepared. Don't go in there off of emotions. Go in there off of logic. Handle racism, handle problems off of logic, not emotions. Be prepared. Have everything written down, scaled out, lined up, whatever you need. Get right, stay right, be right. If you stay ready, then you ain't got to get ready. Stop handling racism like niggas. Be logical. Don't be emotional. We went over that in the ISIS paper. Circular logic versus the linear logic. Circular logic would never find a solution, but the linear logic is designed to find a solution. I know the society has taught us that it's okay to delve into your emotions and be emotions. And I'm not saying don't express your emotions, but if your emotions have that much control over you that you can't control yourself and be concise and be precise with how you handle conflict and racism, then you, my friend, are lost and you're not ready. And you really don't understand racism. You are still confused. Make a written record of those things that you see or hear that may be of use to you in the future in solving problems and or in helping you to protect yourself or others from incorrect accusations. Study what those with the most power do or not do. Listen to what those with the most power say and not say. Choose those parts of what is expressed by talk, signs, pictures, incidents, etc. And make written notes for use of those things that may be of future constructive value. Record the time, date, circumstance, correct quotes, and correct descriptions of things said and done and by whom. Avoid making statements. Practice asking questions, many, many questions. Instead of making accusations, ask for an investigation. Be accurate, be precise. Don't be guessing. Don't be presuming. Well, I feel like, well, I think, well, I feel like, well, I think. No. This is what happened. This happened at this time. This person said this at this time. This person said it this time. And you can investigate all this because I have documented. Document. Stop fighting racism with emotions or trying to fight it with emotions. We got to stop being the most irrelevant member of the superhero squad. Being sassy or being witty or having the best comebacks is not helping. We have to be precise in how we go on the offensive and defensive. But we can't even really get to the offensive because we have to learn how to not be so defensive. Stop being reactive and be prepared because we've studied our enemies. How do white people move? Do not accuse any non-white person of being the cause of another non-white person getting in trouble and or getting fired with regard to any employment situation that is directly dominated by white supremacists. As long as white supremacy exists, it is the white supremacists who are the cause of and or who are responsible for all problems that involve any non-white person in any area of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, and counter war. Avoid racial shadow boxing. Well, what is racial shadow boxing? This is something I learned new. When victims of racism are directly or indirectly assigned, bribed, coerced, or otherwise influenced by the racist white supremacists to speak and or act to do harm to other victims, such persons or actions can be described as racial shadow boxing. And I guess an example of that could be the things that's going on over on the Just Pearly Things YouTube channel where, you know, she got caught up with the racist stuff. And then now a lot of black people are not messing with her no more. And the ones who are left on and going after other black YouTube creators, you know, you got a couple black dudes, black men over there who are like going after people. And it's like crazy, you know, from a spectator, I'm like, it's crazy, but you know, I'm reading this stuff and we understand the psychology of a lot of black people, you know, The racist man, racist woman, they trying to serve. You trying to serve your white master, that's how it go down. So, but he's saying, don't blame them, blame the system, because ultimately it is the system that is the problem. Now, the black person is tripping. It ain't gonna be dealt with, but it's the system at the end of the day, still understanding that white supremacists is the cause of all of this. White supremacy, rather. So an explanation is white supremacists often hide behind others whom they use as shadows of themselves. Case in point, the intent is to cause the other victims of racism to behave incorrectly. That is the person acting in a shadow capacity who is the cause of the speech or action. For that reason, it is incorrect to speak or act against the victim who is used as a shadow for the racist. And another example is the continued or the historical tribalism between groups of black people. White people came in and realized that, hey, just like us, black people are human just like us. And tribalism actually exists throughout the world. But we're going to manipulate and use the tribalism to make black nations fight against each other. And they still do it now. Manipulate the tribalism to make black people throughout the diaspora fight against each other and not like each other. That's how all throughout the world you got black people beefing with each other, but they can't really tell you why. But we know why, because white people told us to. If while doing a job you are told that you are not doing good enough, or that you are too slow, ask for a prolonged demonstration of how the job should be done, and ask for the demonstration to be done by a large number of people for a substantial period of time. Ask for the 3 T's of teaching, which are telling, training, and testing. And these are important. Telling, training, and testing. Now let's get into it. Telling means to be told and shown by demonstration what to do and how to do it. Hey, I want you to fix this. This is how you fix it. Training means to do what you are being told to do again and again, and shown by a person telling you and showing you what to do and how to do it, making certain that you can do it as others can do and are doing. So if I don't actually teach you how to do it, you are not properly trained. I've told you to do it, but if I don't actually thoroughly teach you how to do it, you're not properly trained. Testing. Testing means to make certain that you can at any time do what you were trained to do, thus proving that you were trained to do what you were told to do. You got to test it. And if you can be told and you can be tested, but if you wasn't trained, then you were properly prepared for the position. So during the existence of white supremacy racism, many non-white people are told what to do, then tested for what they did without being trained to do what they were told to do before being tested. Then they are then blamed for not being so-called qualified to do what they were told to do. It is important to know and to understand that being told to do something is not the same as being trained to do something. A person is not trained to do something unless he or she can do that something repeatedly and efficiently without being told, directly, corrected, or inspected. In addition, the manner of training is extremely important. Sometimes what is called training is in truth not training, but telling disguised as training. So make sure you are properly trained. If you haven't been taught through a series of trainings, through a series of lessons, haven't been taught and repeated over and over again and tested and repeated, then you're not properly trained. In many job situations, a white supremacist will deceive a non-white person by informing that person that he or she has been trained, when in truth, the non-white person was not trained but told. Telling disguised as training does not help to produce justice. And that's why black people have to ask questions, have to ask concise and precise and direct questions, especially when somebody's telling you that your performance is inadequate and it has come to be concluded that you have not been properly trained. Well, you have to ask direct questions to make sure that you can get the proper training and produce the documentation. Document, 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 document. During the existence of white supremacy, Non-white people are most often put into situations where they are greatly harmed by the presence of environmental error factors. So now, the question is, what exactly are environmental error factors? So according to Neely Fuller, an environmental error factor is errors, factors. Oh, what is, let me just read it. Let me just read it. Why is it important that environmental error factors be identified and ended not only by in manners of labor, but in all areas of constructive people activity? So by compensatory definition, an environmental error factor can be anything or any combination of factors that directly or indirectly helps cause something to happen that should not happen. Read it again. By compensatory definition, an environmental error factor can be anything or any combination of factors that directly or indirectly help cause something to happen that should not happen. Sometimes a situation can be produced that is very constructive for a specific time, place, and purpose. Sometimes when the time, place, or purpose changes without all, most, or some of the factors in that situation also change, the result may be the establishment of one or more environmental error factor. For example, it is important to be aware of what is said to be an improvement in a situation when a study may show that the improvement may cause a change in the overall situation and that the change produces harm in the form of one or more environmental error factor. An environmental error factor may be a door locked in a place where a door should not be, or it may be a machine that does not function correctly. It may be a tree or a wall that may hinder a view of something that should be seen. It may be a force or an object that hinders movement. It may be a thing that is likely to fall or rise and do harm. An environmental error factor can be too many trees in one specific place, too many small rocks, polluted water, too many people working in too little space, not enough people to do the job that needs doing, telling a person without having trained that person to do that job to be done, and in the circumstances presented, equipment and giving equipment that is inadequate. Too much glaring sunlight, not enough moonlight, strong wind, smoke, some heat, but not enough. Too many people giving too many confusing instructions, missing parts, a table that is too low, vermin, exposure to germs, danger of fire, ageism, sexism, racism, all of that. Anything that changes the situation for the worse, that causes errors to happen, is an environmental error factor. And racism is the greatest environmental error factor. So think about that when we talk about environmental error factors. Anything that causes the harmony to be disrupted, anything that causes injustice to be produced, injustice, those are environmental error factors, things that mess up the flow. When you believe that you should say something about mistreatment and on the job or other situations, make one or more of the following statements to the person who may be involved in causing the mistreatment. Sir or ma'am, my job is to help you, to help me, and for both of us to do two things. One, guarantee that the smartest person here uses all of his or her knowledge to guarantee that no person is mistreated, and guarantee that the smartest person here uses all of his or her knowledge to guarantee that the person who needs the help the most gets the most constructive help. So it also goes on to say, avoid all of the times using the words gripe, grievance, or complaint to describe anything that you say or write when you are not satisfied with something that is said or done by others. Instead, try to use the word report. And I like this. As I read it, I understand it and I like it, because it's how you use the words you use that can help you get the greatest response or the greatest result that you're looking for, right? So do not say I have a gripe, or I have a grievance, or I have a grievance, or I have a complaint. Say I have a report, or I hereby report, and we are reporting from all of the data that we've collected. That's why it's more than a grievance. It's more than a gripe. It's more than a problem. It's a report because I have documented all of the issues, problems, and interactions that were not favorable and that did not produce justice. Avoid saying that you are being mistreated. Say the working conditions are incorrect and as such are subverting the correct reasons for the work. How you say what you say and saying the proper things. Instead of making an accusation, practice asking a question. See, I was right. So asking questions is very, very, very powerful. Questions and answers rather than statements and accusations may in most situations be best help produce, may better help produce a better clarity, focus, and a systematic revelation of truth, which is that has proven to result in one of the best producers of problem solving. Also practice recording each answer that you receive. This includes the answers of silence. Be careful. Remember, he said record. Practice recording each answer you receive. This includes the answers of silence. Be careful with the way that you use each word. Pay attention to how each and every word is used. Listen carefully to each word that you say or that is said about you. Practice speaking as if you are always in the court of law and as if someone is seeking to accuse or convict or punish you. Be smart. Don't be emotional. Don't be reactive. Come in prepared because we've done our homework and we've gathered our information. If you are in a job situation and asked or told to sign your name to something that you think may result in some form of harm being done to you or others that should not be done, copy and use the following request as you reply. And I'll read this to you. Request to delay signature. I hereby request a delay in signing the document as presented to me until such time as I have studied it and understood its meaning and its relationship to me in regards to my speech and action in correct support of the production of justice as directed by all of the applicable laws and valid legalities now in effect. And there's a date and a sign thing. So that's just on at the bottom of page 141 in the book. He also goes on to say, when trying to solve a problem in any area of activity, avoid accusing a person by name or doing something that should not have been done. This particularly applies to matters of labor and law when something applies that should not happen. Always think about the 3 I's: integrity, investigation, and indictment. So inquiry, investigation, and indictment. Inquiry, investigation, and indictment. All right. Inquiry. Ask about the procedure for investigating all of the details about what was done, by whom, and for what reason. Ask that someone who was authorized to do so to find the truth about something that was said to have happened that should not have happened and why. Report, but do not accuse. Report, but do not gripe or complain. Report only that something may have happened that should not have happened. Avoid reporting, saying, writing, etc. Anything else in the report. Limit what you write. Say only that which is necessary. Do not say anything that is not true. And whatever you write, always put it in the form of a question. Avoid making statements. Investigation. In all situations that require an investigation that may lead to an indictment. Accusations are always ask for someone with the greatest power to do the investigation and for a record of the process and for the results according to the correct process and the protection. If you are asked why it is necessary to have a record of the answers to your questions, explain that someone else may not trust your memory of questions answered. Do not attempt to be a part of any investigation where you will be required to accuse any person by name or title by doing anything that should not have been done. So, get your information, but don't get involved in things that you don't need to be getting involved in. Get your information, be able to prove what you need to prove by doing your homework and collecting data. But don't get involved in things that you don't need to get involved in. Do the following when there is a lot of anger, hostility, distress, meanness, and or treachery between and or among people in job situations. So minimize conflict by minimizing non-constructive contact. If what we talking about ain't constructive, why we talking? Avoid trivial conversations. Talk about things that are of constructive value, keeping what you say short and to the point. That's how you minimize problems. Greet people with a wish of good morning, good evening, etc., but do not go into unnecessary conversation. Do not respond to derogatory remarks or joke telling or name calling, except to say or say that's interesting. Avoid making statements about anything, but do answer questions about constructive manners, and do so in a manner that is courteous, cordial, cooperative for a constructive goal. If the situation permits, silently study something of constructive value when in the presence of others who are engaging in gossip or in trivial or non-constructive conversation. All right. So there are 10 types of administrative subversion in support of incorrect government. 10 types of administrative subversion in support of incorrect government. 1 is administrative brutality. 2 is administrative detention. 3 is administrative espionage. 4 is administrative gerrymander. 5 is administrative harassment and or intimidation. 6 is administrative royalism. 7 is administrative sabotage. 8 is administrative slavery. 9 is administrative terrorism. And 10 is administrative waste, fraud, deception, and or theft. We're going to briefly go through all of these, and that is going to take us to the end of the chapter. So administrative subversion. Administrative subversion is the use of words in such a manner as to interpret situations or events in a way that causes and or contributes to thought, speech, and or action that directly or indirectly helps to discourage, undermine, or eliminate attempts to produce justice through correct government. Administrative subversion is the use of words in such a manner as to prevent the revelation of truth and to promote injustice and correctness through the skilled promotion of falsehood. Out there just lying because you want what you want. The overall goal, that's white supremacy though. Administrative subversion, white supremacy. We're going to manipulate the situation to get the desired outcome that we want and forget justice, forget correctness, forget a win-win for everybody. We're going to get the desired outcome that we want. So administrative brutality is any willful and or deliberate speech, action, or inaction, including writings, recordings that result in a person being made subject to one or more of the following unjust or incorrect conditions: excessive fines or punishments, cruel or an unusual punishment, failure to enact due process of law, failure to guarantee equal protection, inflicting unnecessary or unreasonable violence, pain, or hardship in a manner indicting satisfaction in or indifference to suffering. Next is administrative detention and or dislocation without compensation. And is any willful and or deliberate speech, action, or inaction that intentionally or unintentionally results in a person being kept or held in a particular place, condition, or position without probable cause, due process of law, equal protection, and or without being compensated for all losses, both actual and potentially beneficial, that are the result of such custody, detention, dislocation, or confinement. Holding me against my will that causes me to lose everything or disrupts my life. Administrative espionage is any willful and or deliberate act of keeping a person under surveillance with hostile or harmful intent toward that person without the person having knowledge that he or she is under surveillance and or without being told the reason for the surveillance. Administrative harassment and or intimidation is any willful and or deliberate speech, action, or inaction that directly causes or promotes the systematic or persistent irritation of a person by causing that person to be persecuted or made timid through great or small annoyances, threats, or demands, and or to frighten, discourage, or inhibit that person in a manner that is unjust, illegal, and or incorrect. Administrative royalism is any willful and or deliberate speech, action, and or inaction that intentionally or unintentionally causes or promotes support or adherence to the principles of rule by a monarch of a sovereign state, or that intentionally or unintentionally causes or promotes imbalance between persons based on unwarranted, unjustified, or unlimited receipt of benefits or privileges, or some of the denial of some of others, using your power to discriminate. Administrative sabotage is any willful and or deliberate speech, action, or inaction that intentionally causes or promotes the damage to property or of procedures so as to obstruct constructive activity or to hinder just or correct functioning, similar to acts committed to enemy agents against people or against the supportive environment of people in war or in warlike circumstances. Administrative slavery in any willful and or deliberate speech, action, or inaction that causes or promotes support for administrative royalty, administrative dislocation without compensation, serfdom and or bondage, or involuntary servitude to masters who speak and or act as owners of a person's body, mind, time, labor, etc., and who generally treat that person as property. Administrative slavery, when people are generally treating you as property. And that still happens to this day. Administrative terrorism, we know this happens. It's the use of a combination of words and or deeds to produce violence, fear, or intimidation to achieve an objective of fear and subjugation produced by violence and or intimidation. We know that happens. Look at the first two clips. Those first two clips were from a year ago. We know it happens. So, administrative waste, fraud, or deception. And theft is waste is to consume, use, or expand thoughtlessly or carelessly, to squander, to cause, to lose energy, strength, or vigor, to exhaust, tire, or enfeeble. Fraud is deceit, trickery, intentional use of falsehood, intentional failure to reveal truth, and in order to lead, influence, or induce another to part with something of value, surrender a legal benefit, or to acquire something that is of false or worthless value, an act of deceiving or misrepresenting. Deception, the act or condition of being deceived, the act of making what is true to appear to be false, or making what is false to appear to be true. Theft, the act of stealing, specifically the incorrect or unjust taking or removal of personal property with the intent of depriving the correct owner or processor or possessor. And unjust or incorrect taking, as by embezzlement, burglary, and or deceit, to take money or property for one's own use or violation of a trust. And he ends with a note. It is incorrect to accuse any person of doing or supporting any act of aforementioned forms of administrative subversion. Instead of making accusations, ask for an investigation. So basically, he told us what the racism is in the workplace, broke down what the racism is in the workplace, and told us how to fight the racism in the workplace. These administrative brutality, administrative detention or dislocation without compensation, administrative espionage, administrative gerrymander, administrative harassment or intimidation, administrative royalism, administrative sabotage, administrative slavery, administrative terrorism, and administrative waste, fraud, deception, and or theft. But the whole chapter is dedicated to how racism affects the area of labor. Their job is to control all areas, to be dominant in all areas, and subjugate all non-white people in all areas. So, yes, that racism is going to be persistent in the area of labor. Racism is going to happen. And as long as we're working for them, we have to learn how to navigate through the racism and empower ourselves and eventually get away from their systems as much as possible to be able to do more for self and as much for self as possible. But as long as we're under their system and using their systems, and especially their system, the systems of labor, we have to understand what we're dealing with, why we're dealing with it, when we're dealing with it, where we're dealing with it, so we can know how to best deal with it. Like he said, study, observe, take notes, be organized, be precise, be concise, be streamlined, know what you're talking about, don't accuse, don't have gripes, don't have grievances, don't whine, cry, and complain. Present facts, present data, present statistics, ask for investigations, ask questions, get as much information as possible, be prepared. So when you face and you present the issues and you have your speech patterns, you have your thought and your speech patterns prepared. So you won't just go up there just talking and just filibustering, and it won't turn into something that is feelings based. It will be fact based. You can get better results from things that are fact based than things that are feeling based. Because the thing at the end of the day is they understand us and they understand how to get us riled up, and they understand what makes us tick, what makes us mad, what makes us go, what makes us stop. They understand all those things. So we have to combat that by being better prepared. But also remember, study your enemies. Study your enemies. Study white supremacy. The area of labor is how we survive. It's how we make our money, our means. It's what we use to thrive in life. It's what we use to better our lives. So if we want our situation overall to be much, much better, the area of labor is important. All areas are important, but we know the area of labor is important. So let's be better. Let's learn more. The compensatory code, link in the description. The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, a compensatory counter-racist code, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, action, and or victims of white supremacy. Neely Fuller Jr. If you don't have your copy, get your copy. So that was law. Labor. That was the area of labor from page 131 to page 148. So next week's video, we will start on the area of law. We will be going over the area of law in next week's video. So make sure you tune in. And law is from pages 149 to 166. So make sure you do your reading. Pages 149 to 166. Dealing with laws. Love you all. Happy Monday. Start your week off great. Be strong, be black, be proud. We are builders of tomorrow. Remember that. The builders of tomorrow. Love you all. Make sure y'all catch the next video.